Meri Brown didn't announce her new marriage with a smile or a headline. It slipped out quietly, almost accidentally, like a truth that wasn't meant to be found yet. But the moment one name surfaced alongside hers, Frank, everything changed. Because Frank wasn't just a new husband, he was a man who once stood inside the Browns' legal world, watching their secrets stack up one document at a time. If you think this story is about love, stay, because what's coming next feels a lot more like a reckoning. And before we go any further, tell me in the comments, do you believe Meri deserves a fresh start after everything she lost? Meri's life doesn't fall apart loudly. It dissolves slowly, year by year, in quiet rooms and unreturned calls. By the time she meets Frank, she's already learned how to sit with silence. This is after the cameras feel heavier, after family gatherings start feeling like formalities, after Cody's voice becomes something she hears secondhand instead of directly. The meeting doesn't happen in some dramatic setting. No grand introduction, just a small caf, neutral, forgettable. That's what Meri wants, forgettable. She chooses the corner table, back against the wall, habit she never unlearned. Her hands wrap around a mug she doesn't drink from, just holds, like proof she belongs somewhere. Frank arrives on time. That alone feels unfamiliar. He doesn't recognize her as Meri Brown from Sister Wives. Not out loud, at least. His eyes don't linger with curiosity or pity. He sits, sets his folder down, and asks how she's holding up, not how the family is, not how the show is. Her answer surprises her. It's honest. She tells him she's tired, not angry, not heartbroken, just tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Frank listens without interrupting. That's the first thing that disarms her. He doesn't rush to fill the quiet. He doesn't try to solve her. He lets her speak until the words thin out on their own. And that's when Meri realizes something dangerous. This man sees her without needing her pain to perform. They meet again. Then again. Always quiet. Always neutral places. The conversations stay careful at first. Surface level. Work. Weather. Life after divorce. But under it all, there's a shared understanding neither of them says out loud yet. Frank knows the Brown family. Not socially, not personally, professionally. Years earlier, his name passed through the Browns' world as a legal consultant, one of many faces brought in to structure finances, trusts, ownership paths. He wasn't family. He wasn't loyalty-bound. He was there to analyze risk, not emotion. Meri doesn't know this yet. Or maybe she does, somewhere deep down, but doesn't connect the dots. All she knows is that when she talks about feeling erased, Frank doesn't question it. He nods, like someone who's seen the margins of paperwork where names slowly disappear. Stay with me, because the reason Frank understands Meri's isolation has nothing to do with empathy, and everything to do with what he once witnessed behind closed doors. Their connection doesn't bloom fast. It settles. Frank never asks about Cody directly. That's another thing Meri notices. Everyone else always circles back to him eventually. Frank doesn't. It's as if he understands that Cody already took up enough space in her life. One evening, after weeks of conversations, Meri finally laughs. It catches her off guard. The sound feels foreign, like a language she forgot she knew. Frank smiles, not because he caused it, but because he recognizes what it costs her to let it happen. There's a moment, small, almost invisible, where Meri considers the risk. Letting someone close again feels reckless. Vulnerability didn't protect her before, but isolation didn't either. She doesn't fall in love all at once. She rebuilds trust piece by piece. And Frank, careful and composed, never pushes. He waits. What Meri doesn't know is that somewhere in a sealed archive, Frank's name already exists beside hers, tied to documents neither of them have opened yet. When the relationship turns serious, it happens off camera. No dramatic reveal, no public statement, Just a decision made between two people who know what it's like to live under scrutiny. The marriage comes quietly, almost defensively, as if Meri is protecting something fragile from being consumed by noise. But silence doesn't erase paper trails. Weeks later, a legal envelope arrives at a Brown-associated address. Then another. Then another. Old files get re-requested. Sealed records flagged. Names cross-referenced. And one name stops everything cold. Frank. Not as Meri's husband, but as a former consultant tied to Brown family financial structures that were never meant to be revisited. This is the moment where love and law collide, and the past begins knocking louder than anyone is ready for. Meri senses the shift before she understands it. Phone calls stop returning again. Familiar tension creeps back into her chest. She doesn't know why yet, only that peace never lasts long in her world. And somewhere else, far from that quiet cafe where this all began, Cody Brown is being told a name he never expected to hear again. Frank. The man who once saw everything, the first sign that something is wrong, doesn't come from Meri. It comes from the tone of the room Cody is sitting in when the name is spoken. It's a conference room that smells faintly of paper and burnt coffee. Nothing dramatic. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, buzzing just loud enough to irritate. Cody leans back in his chair, arms crossed, already defensive before anyone finishes the sentence. He assumes this is routine. Another legal formality. Another cleanup from the past. Then the attorney clears his throat and says it. Frank? The air changes. Cody's jaw tightens. Not because he remembers every detail, but because his body remembers before his mind does. A flash of irritation. A flicker of recognition he doesn't want to acknowledge. Frank was never part of the family. That's what made him dangerous. He wasn't emotional. He didn't care about harmony or appearances. He cared about structure, documentation, consistency. Years ago, when the Browns were trying to formalize assets spread across wives, homes, LLCs, and shifting narratives, Frank was one of the outside professionals brought in quietly to advise. Not decide. Not control. Observe. And now his name is back, not as a consultant, but attached to Meri. The attorney slides a folder across the table. It's thin, but the weight of it feels heavier than anything Cody's dealt with recently. These documents were sealed, the attorney says carefully. They're being reopened because of a conflict of interest review triggered by a marriage disclosure. Cody scoffs. A marriage shouldn't trigger anything. The attorney doesn't respond right away. He flips a page, taps a line, then looks up. It does when the spouse previously had access to financial structuring documents tied to multiple parties who are now legally disentangled. Cody leans forward now. What exactly are you saying? What the attorney is saying, without saying it yet, is that Frank's past proximity to the Browns' finances, combined with Meri's new legal status as his wife, has created a vulnerability no one planned for. And vulnerabilities invite scrutiny. Right here is where the past stops being history and starts becoming evidence. Meanwhile, Meri has no idea any of this is happening. Her days have been quiet in a way that feels earned. She wakes up without dread. She cooks because she wants to, not because it's expected. Frank moves through her space with respect, never assuming, never taking. There's a softness in their routine. Comfortable silences, shared glances that say enough. But even peace has a sound when it's about to crack. Meri's phone rings in the middle of the afternoon. Unknown number. She almost lets it go to voicemail, but something in her chest tightens. That old instinct she never fully lost. She answers. Miss Brown, the voice says, professional and neutral. This is a legal notification regarding a sealed financial review connected to prior family structures. You are not in trouble. But your name has been flagged for relevance. The words blur together. Flagged. Review. Relevance. Meri sits down slowly, the edge of the couch pressing into the back of her knees. "I don't understand," she says. The voice on the line explains, carefully. Plain language. No accusations. Just facts. Because of her marriage to Frank, certain documents he once reviewed are now subject to reassessment. This doesn't mean wrongdoing. It means questions. And questions once asked don't always stay contained. When the call ends, Meri doesn't cry. She stares at the wall. She's been blamed, ignored, discarded. But this feels different. This isn't about emotion. This is about paper. Records. Timelines. Truths that don't bend based on who's speaking. Frank comes home an hour later and knows something is wrong before Meri says a word. She's sitting too still. Her eyes are focused but distant. "They called," she says simply. He nods once. No surprise. No denial. "I thought they might," he admits. That's when it hits her. You knew this could happen. Frank doesn't rush his response. He sits beside her, close enough to feel her presence without overwhelming her. "I hoped it wouldn't," he says. "But I knew it was possible." Meri exhales slowly. "Possible how?" He explains. Years ago, he was brought in to analyze risk exposure across shared assets. He never signed anything incriminating. He never made decisions. But he saw patterns, discrepancies, things that were legal but fragile. He never expected to be connected to the family again. And he never expected to fall in love with Meri. This is the moment Meri realizes her new life may force old truths into the open, whether she wants them there or not. Across town, Robin is getting her own call. Unlike Meri's, hers is short. "Kurt, we need you available," the voice says. "There may be questions." Robin's hand trembles as she sets the phone down. Questions? About what? She's always framed herself as the emotional heart of the family, not the financial mind. She trusted Cody to handle structure, legality, protection. That was his domain. But Frank's name stirs something uneasy. She remembers meetings she didn't fully understand. Documents she signed because she was told they were necessary. And suddenly, that trust feels thin. In the following days, sealed court notices begin surfacing quietly. Not public, not dramatic. But once something enters the legal system, it has a way of leaking through tone, posture, hesitation. Christine hears whispers through channels she no longer belongs to. Janelle, who understands finances better than most, reads between the lines immediately. "This isn't nothing," she says under her breath after seeing a partial notice. Because she knows what it means when documents get reopened. It means someone, somewhere, believes the story told the first time wasn't complete. And once a story is questioned in court, everyone becomes a potential narrator, whether they want to be or not. Meri and Frank attend their first legal meeting together a week later. The courtroom isn't grand. It's modest. Beige walls. Wooden benches polished by years of restless hands. The air smells faintly of disinfectant and old paper. Meri feels exposed walking in, even though no cameras are present. Frank squeezes her hand once before letting go. This isn't about comfort anymore. It's about clarity. The judge explains the situation plainly. No accusations. No drama. A review has been triggered due to overlapping legal involvement. Frank's past advisory role, Meri's former marital ties, and the family's complex asset structure require clarification. Were there conflicts? The judge asks. Frank answers honestly. "I was never retained by an individual wife," he says. "I advised on structure, not control. I flagged risk. I did not implement." The judge nods, making notes. "And did you observe inconsistencies?" There's a pause, not long, but long enough. Frank chooses his words carefully. "I observed vulnerabilities." Meri closes her eyes briefly, because she knows vulnerabilities are where everything breaks. What no one in that room realizes yet is that this single word will become the foundation of everything that follows. Outside the courtroom, Robin sits in her car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles whiten. She wasn't required to attend today, but she feels pulled there anyway, like something unseen is shifting. Cody arrives late, tense, defensive before he's even questioned. When he hears that Frank has already spoken, something sharp crosses his face. He's not family, Cody says to his attorney. He doesn't understand our intentions. But intention doesn't hold much weight in a courtroom. Documentation does. And Frank has seen more than Cody realizes. As Session 2 closes, one truth becomes unavoidable. This isn't a misunderstanding that will disappear quietly. It's a slow unraveling. Because when sealed documents resurface, they don't just ask what happened. They ask, who knew Robin doesn't sleep that night? The house is quiet in the way that feels too loud. Every small sound stretched thin by anxiety. The refrigerator hums. A floorboard creaks. Her thoughts won't slow down. She keeps replaying the same question over and over. What does Frank know? By morning, her chest feels tight, like she's been holding her breath for hours. When the summons arrives, it isn't dramatic. No sirens, no confrontation. Just an official notice delivered with practiced calm. Her name, a date, a courtroom. The words blur together, but the meaning is clear. She's no longer watching this from the sidelines. Inside the courthouse, the lighting feels harsher than Robin expects. Not bright, exposed. The kind of light that leaves nowhere to hide. She sits beside Cody, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed straight ahead. Cody leans toward her, whispering reassurance he doesn't fully believe himself. This is procedural, he murmurs. They don't have anything. Robin nods, but her body doesn't relax. Across the room, Meri enters with Frank. There's no tension in their posture toward each other, just steadiness. That unsettles Robin more than anger ever could. Meri looks different, not defensive, not fragile, grounded. Frank adjusts his jacket, his expression neutral. He doesn't scan the room. He doesn't avoid eye contact. He looks like a man who expected this moment to arrive eventually. This is when Robin realizes fear isn't about guilt. It's about not knowing which truth will be spoken out loud. The judge calls the session to order. The air shifts. Everyone sits straighter. The rustle of paper sounds louder than it should. Robin is called to the stand. Her legs feel weak as she stands, the walk to the front longer than it looks. She swears to tell the truth, her voice barely above a whisper at first. The question starts simple. Names, dates, roles. She answers carefully, sticking to what she's always said. She trusted Cody. She signed what she was told to sign. She believed the structure was fair. Then the attorney changes tone. Mrs. Brown, he says, were you aware that certain assets were held in configurations that limited access for other spouses? Robin swallows. I didn't manage that, she says. Cody handled the finances. Did you benefit from those configurations? Her breath catches. I didn't understand them, she repeats. I trusted my husband. The attorney nods slowly, then turns slightly. Mr. Frank, you reviewed these structures, is that correct? Frank stands. Yes, the room feels smaller suddenly. Robin's pulse pounds in her ears. Did you flag any risks related to imbalance or inequity? Frank doesn't hesitate. Yes, Robin's head snaps up. The attorney gestures toward a document displayed on a screen. Redacted sections. Dates. Annotations. Can you explain what these notes indicate? Frank's voice is calm. Even. Almost gentle. They indicate that certain wives were excluded from decision-making while remaining financially exposed, he says. It created dependency without transparency. Robin's chest tightens. Her eyes fill, not with tears yet, with panic. That's not, she starts, her voice breaking. The judge raises a hand. Let him finish. Frank continues. I advise that this structure could cause emotional and legal harm if relationships dissolved, he says. I recommended revisions. The attorney turns back to Robin. Were those revisions made? Robin shakes her head slightly. I don't know. Her voice cracks now. Tears spill over, unplanned, unstoppable. I didn't want anyone hurt, she says. I just wanted a family. This is the moment the courtroom stops feeling like a legal space and starts feeling like a confessional with consequences. Cody shifts beside her, his jaw clenched. He doesn't reach for her hand. He's doing math in his head. Outcomes, exposure, blame. Christine watches from the back, arms crossed. Her expression isn't smug. It's tired, like she's watching something she warned everyone about years ago finally play out. Janelle's gaze stays fixed on the documents. She understands them. She always did. When Robin steps down from the stand, she looks smaller. Fragile in a way that feels real, not performative. She sits, shoulders shaking, and for the first time, no one rushes to comfort her. Because comfort won't change what's now on record. Outside during recess, Meri stands near a window, sunlight cutting across her face. Christine approaches slowly. You okay? Christine asks. Meri nods once. I didn't ask for this, she says quietly. But I'm not running from it either. Christine exhales. That's the difference, she replies. Across the hallway, Janelle speaks in low tones with her attorney. She knows what comes next. Depositions. Decisions. Lines drawn. And here's where the story splits. Because loyalty and truth rarely walk in the same direction. When court resumes, the judge addresses the room. Further testimony will be required, he says, particularly regarding awareness and consent. Christine and Janelle exchange a look. They're going to be called. Later that night, Janelle sits alone at her kitchen table, paperwork spread in front of her. She runs numbers, timelines, ownership paths. Her phone buzzes with a message from Christine. If they ask us to choose, what do we do? Janelle types back slowly. We tell the truth. Christine stares at the screen before responding, even if it burns what's left. Janelle's reply comes after a pause. Especially then. Across town, Meri and Frank sit side by side, the weight of the day settling in. Meri leans her head against his shoulder. Did you expect this? She asks softly. Frank hesitates. I expected resistance, he says. I didn't expect honesty to hurt this much. Meri closes her eyes. I spent years being invisible, she says. If this is what being seen costs, I'll pay it. Because the next session won't be about what Frank knows. It'll be about what Christine and Janelle are willing to say out loud. And once they speak, there's no version of this family that goes back to what it was. Morning comes too fast. Christine stands in front of her bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back. Not because she looks different, but because she feels lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter from distance. Heavier from what she's about to carry into that courtroom. She practices nothing. No answers. No speeches. She learned a long time ago that rehearsed truth sounds like a lie. Janelle, meanwhile, moves through her morning with quiet precision. Coffee measured. Papers aligned. Pen placed exactly where she'll need it. This is how she manages fear. By organizing it. Neither woman speaks to Cody before court. That silence says more than any argument ever did. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere has shifted. Word has spread. Not to the public yet, but within the legal ecosystem. People know this isn't procedural anymore. This is about accountability. Meri arrives early, sitting alone this time. Frank stands a few steps away, giving her space without leaving her side. She watches Christine and Janelle enter together, not arm in arm, but united in purpose. Cody notices it too. The way they don't look at him. The way they don't wait for him. This is when Cody realizes something has changed. Not legally yet, but relationally. And that's the part he can't control. Christine is called first. She walks to the stand with her shoulders back. Her voice doesn't shake when she swears to tell the truth. That alone feels revolutionary. The attorney starts gently. Christine, during your marriage, were you aware of how assets were structured? Christine tilts her head slightly, considering. I was aware I wasn't meant to understand them, she says. A ripple moves through the room. Can you explain that? She nods. I was told finances were complicated, Christine continues. That it was better if one person handled them. That trust mattered more than details. Cody shifts in his seat. Did you ever ask for clarification? Yes, she answers. Immediately. Many times. And what happened when you asked? Christine's eyes flick briefly toward Cody. Not angry, resolved. I was told my concerns were emotional, not practical, she says. That I didn't see the big picture, and with that sentence, years of dismissal finally gain a witness. The attorney pauses, letting it settle. Did you feel financially secure in your marriage? Christine's laugh is soft, almost sad. No, she says. I felt replaceable. Meri's throat tightens. Christine continues, voice steady. When I left, I realized how little protection I had. Not because I didn't contribute, but because I wasn't included. No one interrupts her, not even Cody. When Christine steps down, the silence that follows is thick, not dramatic, heavy. Then Janelle is called. If Christine speaks from lived emotion, Janelle speaks from data. Her testimony is methodical, calm, precise. Yes, I reviewed account distributions. Yes, I noticed patterns. Yes, I raised concerns. The attorney asks, what kind of concerns? Janelle doesn't look at Cody when she answers. I was concerned that decision-making power didn't match contribution, she says. That exposure wasn't evenly shared. That some of us were financially vulnerable by design. Cody leans forward. That's not fair. The judge raises a hand. You'll have your turn, he says firmly. Janelle continues. I stayed longer than I should have, she admits. Because I believed protecting the family meant protecting the system. She pauses. I was wrong. This is the moment the courtroom stops asking what went wrong and starts understanding how long it was allowed to continue. When both women step down, the attorney rests his hands on the podium. Your Honor, he says, this establishes a pattern. Emotional deference, masking financial imbalance. Frank is called again. This time, the questions cut deeper. Mr. Frank, the attorney asks, based on your past review and today's testimony, do these outcomes surprise you? Frank looks at Meri for a brief second. Then, back to the judge. No, he says. They confirm what I warned about. Robin exhales sharply, hand flying to her mouth. Cody finally stands. This is being framed unfairly, he says. We were a family. Decisions were made for unity. The judge studies him. Unity without consent is not unity, he says calmly. It's control. The word lands hard. Meri feels it in her chest, not as validation, as closure. Outside the courtroom, during another recess, Robin approaches Meri hesitantly. Her eyes are red, her voice small. I never meant to hurt you, she says. Meri looks at her, really looks. I know, she replies, but intention didn't protect me. Robin nods, tears falling freely now. I didn't know how deep it went, she whispers. Meri's voice is gentle, but firm. That doesn't mean it didn't go deep. And in that quiet exchange, blame gives way to consequence, which is far harder to escape. As the day winds down, the judge announces that final testimony will be heard next. Frank's. Everyone understands what that means. Not analysis, not implication. Truth, spoken clearly, on record. That night, Meri sits on the edge of her bed, shoes still on, exhaustion pressing into her bones. Frank sits beside her, Are you sure? She asks him softly. He nods. I didn't come this far to protect a system that hurt you. She reaches for his hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, she says, thank you for standing where others didn't. Frank squeezes her hand once. Tomorrow won't be about standing. It will be about revealing. Because when Frank takes the stand again, he won't just testify about structures and vulnerabilities. He'll testify about choices. And once those are spoken out loud, there's no version of this story where anyone leaves unchanged. The courtroom is fuller than it's been all week. Not with spectators, with weight. The kind that settles into shoulders and slows breath. Even the judge seems more deliberate today, his movements careful, aware that whatever is said next will echo far beyond this room. Frank is sworn in for the final time. He stands straight, hands relaxed at his sides. There is no performance in him. No defensiveness. Just intention. The attorney doesn't rush. Mr. Frank, he begins. You've testified about structures, vulnerabilities, and warnings. Today, we're asking you to speak plainly, not as a consultant, not as a spouse, but as a witness. Frank nods once. I understand. The attorney takes a step closer. When you reviewed the Brown family's financial framework years ago, what did you actually see? Frank exhales slowly. I saw a system built on trust, he says, but trust flowing in one direction. Cody stiffens. Frank continues, his voice even. One person controlled information. Others were expected to comply without understanding. That imbalance wasn't accidental. It was convenient. A murmur moves through the room. The attorney asks, did you document this? Yes. And were those documents shared? Frank hesitates, not out of fear, but gravity. They were shared with legal representatives, he says, and flagged as potential risk if relationships dissolved. Robin's breath catches audibly. This is the moment theory becomes record, and discomfort turns into proof. Cody stands abruptly. This is character assassination, he snaps. You're framing intention as manipulation. The judge's voice is firm. Sit down, Mr. Brown. Frank doesn't look at Cody when he responds. I'm not describing intention, he says calmly. I'm describing outcome. Silence. The attorney presses further. Did you believe any wife was misled? Frank's gaze finally shifts to Meri. Yes, he says. Most consistently, Mary's chest tightens, but she doesn't look away. She was legally bound without legal clarity, Frank continues. Emotionally committed without financial agency? Cody shakes his head. That's not true, he mutters. Frank turns to face him fully for the first time. You removed her legal status, Frank says, voice steady, then retained the benefits of her loyalty. The words land like a gavel. This isn't an accusation. It's a summary. And summaries are hard to argue with. The attorney pauses, then asks the question no one said out loud yet. Mr. Frank, why did you stay silent all these years? Frank doesn't answer immediately. Because the truth isn't clean. I believed it wasn't my place, he says finally. I believed the family would correct itself. He swallows. I was wrong. Christine closes her eyes briefly. Janelle nods almost imperceptibly. And why speak now? The attorney asks. Frank looks at Meri again. Because silence became complicity, he says. And I married a woman who spent years paying for other people's comfort. Mary's eyes fill, but she doesn't cry. Not now. The judge leans forward. Mr. Frank, he says, are you suggesting intentional harm? Frank chooses his words carefully. I'm suggesting sustained neglect with foreseeable consequences, he replies, which, in my professional opinion, is functionally indistinguishable. Robin breaks. Not dramatically, quietly. Her shoulders fold inward as tears slip down her face. She presses her hand to her mouth, shaking her head like she's hearing something she can't undo. Cody doesn't move. Because this is the first time the narrative isn't his to manage. When truth is spoken calmly, It's almost impossible to drown out. The judge thanks Frank and asks him to step down. But before Frank sits, the judge speaks again. One more question, he says. Did you ever advise that this system could expose someone to long-term harm? Frank nods. Yes, he says. Specifically Meri. The room holds its breath. That harm, the judge continues, did it occur? Frank's voice is soft now. Yes. That's it. No flourish, no dramatics, just acknowledgement. When the session ends, no one rushes out. People sit with what's been said, what's been documented, what can't be unsaid. Outside the courtroom, Meri stands in the hallway alone for a moment. The noise fades behind her. Footsteps. Voices. Legal language. Frank approaches slowly. It's done, he says. Meri nods. I didn't expect closure to feel like this, she admits. He tilts his head. How does it feel? She thinks for a second. Quiet, she says, but real. Across the hall, Christine and Janelle stand together. Not celebrating, not grieving, just breathing. Robin exits last, eyes swollen, face bare of makeup and certainty. She doesn't approach Meri this time. Some distances can't be crossed anymore. Cody steps out behind her, expression tight, jaw set. He doesn't look at Meri, because looking would mean seeing. And seeing would mean reckoning. This is how stories actually end, not with shouting, but with clarity no one can outrun. Later that evening, Meri and Frank sit on their porch as the sun dips low. The air is cool. Still. Do you regret it? Meri asks quietly. Frank shakes his head. No, he says. Truth ages better than silence. Meri leans back, watching the sky shift colors. For the first time in years, her future doesn't feel like an extension of her past. It feels like her own. And before this story closes, I want to ask you something. Do you believe accountability brings peace, or just a different kind of loss? Let me know in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end when the courtroom empties.